And now we will delight ourselves in a fireside chat with two esteemed individuals. Jenny Fielding is a managing director of Techstars in Boulder, Colorado. We've heard of that before. For today. Before Techstars, she headed the corporate venture and digital innovation for BBC Worldwide and started the Switch Mobile, a company acquired in 2009. And we also have Mr. Mark Solon, the managing partner of Techstars and previously a co-founder of the Highway 12 Ventures, an early-stage venture capital firm focusing on the Mountain West regions in the US, right? Jenny and Mark will discuss the impact of Techstars and the accelerators around the world. There you go.
Shooby-dooby-doo.
Excellent. Give you one. Can you hear me? All right. How y'all doing? Good? I'm so excited. I'm so excited after Ingrid's talk. I want to go do stuff. So here, me doing stuff. Mark, Jenny, thanks for coming again. I'm going to start with the classic question I always ask everybody that I interview. How do you like Iceland?
What's not to like?
Exactly. No, just first impressions. You've never been to Iceland, and this is your first time. What's your first impression about the community and the conversations that you've been having? And just, you go to a lot of communities, so give us your feedback. What should we do?
So I started a company in 2005 in New York, and believe it or not, there was hardly any startup ecosystem there. I ran that company from my apartment, felt very isolated, didn't feel like there was a community. There were mentors, but there were starting to be some. And what's exciting about going, all over the world to new and up-and-coming communities is just starting to see that spark, and people like you who are bringing it all together. So I guess I feel hopeful and excited that you can fill a room with people who are interested in entrepreneurship and that are interested in building businesses.
Mark?
Thanks, Bala. Thanks for having us here. Well, I was born and raised in New York City, and I spent my 20s in Chicago and Boston and San Francisco. And about 20 years ago, I moved to Boise, Idaho, which is the most isolated major city in the United States. It's about 500 kilometers from the nearest city of its same size. So it's about 200,000 people, so not that different from here. And mostly my impression of Reykjavik in Iceland so far is that it actually feels a lot like home. I moved to Idaho because I craved getting away from people and being in wide open spaces. And driving around the southern part of your beautiful country the last few days, I was actually amazed at how similar it feels to being back home. So I've been around a lot of startup communities in isolated places like Reykjavik. And hopefully we can discover a few things that I've seen along the way that help entrepreneurs in isolated places.
Very cool. So let's talk about Techstars and what it's done to the global startup movement. And I think I should give context. The reason I bumped into Techstars was because I was staying up late reading blogs and watching everything that I can about startups in 2008, 2009. And I saw this video of David Cohen, the first Techstars video. And it's actually a flyby on Boulder. I saw that and I was like, that's Iceland. That's not Boulder. What are they talking about? There's nothing in Iceland here. So for me, Techstars always been, it should be in Iceland. So tell me more about Techstars and what's doing to the rest of the world.
Well, for those of you who aren't familiar with Techstars, we run a series of accelerator programs and events around the world. We run 24 accelerator programs, which are 3-month-long boot camps for cohorts of 10 founder companies. And it's a mentorship-driven model where we surround 10 startup companies with about 100 mentors per program. We also own Startup Week and Startup Weekend. So just last year, we ran almost 800 events in 135 countries for over 100,000 entrepreneurs. So what we really believe at its core, what we're building is the most important startup network in the world, that someday the most obvious choice entrepreneurs make when they enter their entrepreneurial journey is through Techstars.
Jenny? How did your journey into Techstars begin?
Yeah, so previous, as you heard, I was involved in a venture fund, and I was investing more at the A and B round. But previous to that, I was an entrepreneur, and what I loved about investing in companies was being able to help entrepreneurs. And so, when you invest at the A and B round, you mostly are sitting on boards, and there's a limited number of people that you can help. So I was interested in going earlier stage and working with earlier stage companies. And so the format for our accelerator is really hands-on. So people like me who are managing directors work day and night with the companies for the 3 months and then beyond. And we don't sit in an office with the door closed, and we are literally with the entrepreneurs who are in our program, and that is just an incredible feeling. And so Techstars is very unique in that. And then I'd say the second reason is, Techstars has a philosophy that you can build great companies outside of the Valley. I had built my company in New York City, which, as I mentioned, was a desolate ecosystem when I started, and now is thriving. And so I was really interested in that idea of building great companies outside of the Valley and how to foster and contribute to that. So I run 2 programs for Techstars in New York, and I love being part of burgeoning ecosystems.
Brilliant.
We actually like to say we're not anti-Silicon Valley, we're pro-everywhere else.
That's a good one. It actually, that's a cue to my next question. So how did you get involved with startups, and how did it all start? I mean, for me, I got fired, so there needs to be a story for you.
I actually started my career on Wall Street, and never in a million years thought I'd wind up in venture capital and startups, but I was recruited by a partner who was leaving my firm back in the early 90s in Boston to join him in starting a new boutique private equity firm. So I spent most of the 90s investing in startups in Boston, and actually in Europe and Russia as well. My partner was Russian. So like so many things that happen to us in life, it wasn't by design. We were talking about this last night. I think my favorite quote is, "The best way to make God laugh is to share your plans with him."
Absolutely. Jenny, you shuttled between London, New York, and San Francisco. You've been all over. So what got you involved in venture investing? I mean, why?
So I ran a company for several years, and when I was fortunate enough to exit that company, I started angel investing, really because I wanted to give back. I think the motivation for a lot of entrepreneurs who become angel investors is that they've had incredible people support them on the way. And so I wanted to give back to that community, and so just started funding, some of the entrepreneurs that I knew, not the businesses as much as the entrepreneurs. So I was just wanted to support the people that I thought were so awesome and had big visions. So that was how I got into angel investing and kind of led to venture investing after that.
So Ingrid was not making this stuff up. So women do want to invest back all the money they make. So that's good. So let's talk a little bit about startup communities. I know we started that way. I really like the Techstars philosophy. I'm a buyer of Techstars, and that global companies can be built from anywhere. Pro everywhere is great for our rock in the middle of the ocean. But what should startup communities focus on? I mean, how do you make a vibrant community? I mean, we've been at this 5 years, and this has been our own journey. I think we're doing good, but of course, you see a lot of different things, and what should we be focusing on in the next 5 years?
So I've been really fortunate over the 5 years I've been at Techstars to go all around the world to lots of different successful, burgeoning, nascent startup communities. And let's have a little exercise here to figure out exactly what you should be focused on. If you love Reykjavik and Iceland. I mean, love, love, love it here. Stand up. Okay, that's pretty good. No, please stay standing. And if you plan on being here, you know, barring something completely unforeseen, but if you plan on being here in 20 years, stay standing. Excellent. And now, if you're an entrepreneur, stay standing. Okay, everybody who's sitting down now, take a look around and look at the people who are still standing. These are the people you should be focused on. They have a long-term view. They're going to be here a long time. They're passionate about the community. And everybody else, service providers, government, academia, you're all important parts of the ecosystem, but these are the people that are going to be most influential, and you should be following their lead, because every great startup community that I've ever seen, and I've seen them all over the world, they are built by entrepreneurs who have long-term visions and love where they live. These are the people who are going to make the startup community happen here.
All right, I'm glad to know all of you, so that's good. Just thinking about my own future here. Jenny, please.
So another thing we talk a lot about at Techstars is giving first, and so I'd also like to say that you know, as my journey and I started investing to kind of give back to the community, that is one of the things that builds ecosystems, right? Is this idea of helping someone else, not because you're going to get something back, but because you're not going to get something back necessarily. And so putting it out there is what starts bringing the community together.
Yeah, this is one of my core philosophies, and that's where my mentor, Brad, and I connect very much, because Brad, first, when I started with him, he basically said, Bala, you should just give. Don't worry about anything that's going to come out. Just give whatever it is that you have and see what happens. And I'm really looking forward to his book, because he's writing a book about give first now, right? I think so. So anyway, last question. I'm trying to catch up on time. Of course, guys, they're going to be here. They're going to mentor tomorrow, so you have all the chance to, you know, pick their brain for however long you want. Actually, it's 15 minutes, so don't step out of that time.
Very accessible.
Anyway, what's your advice and recommendation for startup founders in Iceland? I mean, we're starting to see many incredible startups starting to really scale out of here. A lot of interesting partners coming in and stepping in and helping them out. You will probably notice some of the founders in the founders panel that's following our talk. But I want to hear your perspective. I mean, what should the founders from Iceland be focused on, thinking about?
Well, obviously they're businesses, right? The biggest contribution you as entrepreneurs can make to this startup community is to create a successful business. Everything Silicon Valley is today is a result of what happened at Hewlett-Packard 50 years ago. And if you look at startup communities that have succeeded and scaled, they all have one thing in common, and that is some big successes early on. Not small successes, big successes. Because when you have a big success, the talented people in that tech organization will stay for a year or two, realize that they don't fit in a corporate culture, and go start something else. And even where I live, in a small town like Boise, which is about the same size as Reykjavik, we have HP's printing and imaging division in our town, in a town of a couple of 100,000 people. And if you look at all the successful startups, almost all of the founders came from all the engineering talent in HP. So that's from what I can do from my company perspective. But there's also something else all of you can do, and that is have a voice. You are all closer to the venture communities in New York City and Boston than they are from the Bay Area. And you don't have a voice. I monitor startup communities all over the world, and the biggest thing I'd tell you is, I can't hear you. So together, root each other on, promote each other's businesses. If there's one thing I've learned in my career is that once you start saying and believing over and over and over again what you want to be, you become that. So by together creating entrepreneurial density, get all the entrepreneurs. I don't know much about, some people have been asking me what my perception so far is of the startup community, and that's my response really is I can't hear you, I don't really know what's going on here. But all of the entrepreneurs should be working together closely, and that's the magic of Techstars. If you look at Boulder, Colorado, which today is the #4 startup community in the United States. But when I moved to Idaho in 2000, and then in 2003 made my first investment in a Boulder company, which Google acquired. It's called Atlas Software. Boulder was really, it was 100,000 people. It was a sleepy college town. There was no Techstars. Brad Feld was there, but he was working for a big multi-coastal venture firm called Mobius. And there really wasn't a lot of interesting startups going on. Today, after Silicon Valley, New York, and Boston, Boulder, Colorado, a little town of 100,000 people, gets more venture capital dollars than any other city in America. And that's happened in a decade. So it doesn't even take the 20 years. So how did it happen? It happened because I have never seen community around startups develop like it has developed in Boulder, Colorado. Everybody was welcome. Everybody was encouraged to take part. If you were willing to work hard and contribute to the community, you were welcomed. You were trusted first. And were there a few bad actors along the way? Sure. And they were quickly spit out of the ecosystem. But if you were a contributor, be it an entrepreneur, a service provider, a lawyer, academia, government, you were welcome to contribute, but it was the entrepreneurs that led the way. So my advice to you is, I'll give you another quick example if we're not running out of time,
We're good.
is Salt Lake City. And this is interesting because I think you have a lot in common with Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City, Utah is an hour's flight from the Bay Area. And what they have is amazing beauty and great snow and beautiful mountains. And venture capitalists like to recreate in places like Park City and Deer Valley and Snowbird. And the governors of Utah understood this. So successfully, Mike Leavitt and the next governor, I'm forgetting his name for a second, they practiced shuttle diplomacy. They'd go to the valley, they'd talk about Utah, and they'd talk about what a great place it is for a startup, and they successfully lured entrepreneurs from the valley to Salt Lake City and advertised the quality of life and the beauty and the snow and the resorts. And you have the same thing. You are a short flight from New York City and London. There's tons of capital in Boston and New York City looking for places to invest. I really believe Andy Kessler said it best, that money sloshes around the globe looking for opportunity. So if you find your voice, and then things that you can do, Ambassador, and that the president can do, is use this incredible asset you have of the natural beauty and get venture capitalists and dollars to visit, they'll fall in love with it and they'll keep coming back. And today, last year in 2015, Salt Lake City attracted over $1 billion in venture capital to a town not much bigger than this.
So we'll probably talk more about that in the investor panel. I think that's going to be interesting. Jenny, any final words?
Yeah, I mean, really on an individual level, I think it's about thinking big and expressing big. And, sometimes cultures that are a little bit more modest in their approach can struggle with that. And so I'd encourage all the entrepreneurs to think like Americans when, in this one case, when you're building your business, and think big, make everyone think that you're bigger than you are, and definitely come to New York and London to pitch your businesses. And it really is a unique asset. You are, just a few hours from London and New York, and you can be that bridge, and capital will come to you.
Very good. Mark, Jenny, thank you very much for taking the time. I'm very fortunate to have you all. You're going to mentor tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. So if you haven't signed up, please look at the schedule. I'm pretty sure it's booked now. So we'll go from there. Thanks again. Thanks, everybody.